Welcome in UFC Seattle. That's right, Mariners jersey. I bet you anybody in the comments, not a chance in hell you can guess whose jersey this is. I don't even know if Joe remembers.
Number 4, commentator.
There you go. Other side. Number 4.
Here's the hint. If it wasn't for Ricky Henderson, he'd be really highly touted stolen base champ.
Yeah, there you go. We'll give you a couple of minutes to comment, and I'll see if I can circle back and remember to reveal at the end. That's what we call a tease in the business.
Who knows? We got a brand new thumbnail. We might get some new viewers.
There you go. Remember when I busted up my thumbnail the day before I got married? That was fun.
I do.
Oh, that was my ring finger now. Anyways, I told you to remind me what I wanted to describe this card as. What did can you remind me what that was?
Something with an old wrinkly pickle or something.
Nope, not even close. I said this card reminds me of day-old milk or day-old any kind of dairy product. You got to give it the sniff test because technically it's expired, but do you really want to go pay money for the new one? And that's what this card reminds me of. We got a lot of geriatric fighters who have been in the UFC probably a day too long, or at least highly ranked a day too long. You got to give them the sniff test before you lay big money on the up-and-comer. You'll see more of that in the final couple of fights of the main card. Very surprising numbers when you're looking straight at the names. But when we get into it, when we dig into it, we'll see if those numbers are worthy. The first couple of fights, though, bunch of names you never heard of. You're shopping at Aldi these first couple of fights, stuff you never even knew existed. And I know you're a big Aldi guy.
Big Aldi guy. Both in the betting and in the real world.
All right, so our first fight of the night, we got Modestas Bukauskas at a -300 against Rafael Cacaria at a +240. And Bukauskas was in the UFC, got cut, vowed that he would be back, came back. Twitter loved him for a couple of fights, but we know who this guy is. He's been pretty much the same his whole career.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. He is Alexander Rakic, Aldi version, to keep it all. He's big. He's athletic. He moves well. He's got good kicks. The man wants. I think he's got his dad in his corner. The man wants it. His durability is the issue. And seeing him at a -300 price tag, I felt like myself, who is a big Bukauskas fan. I'm sure there's some Urban Dictionary thing that's going to come bite me in the ass on that one. But I'm a big Bukauskas fan, and I would not even price him -300 here in this fight. So I don't see really hardly any value whatsoever. Bukauskas is the more athletic guy, albeit his opponent is very athletic in his own right. Bukauskas has multiple ways to win. He's good on the outside. He can offensively wrestle. He can also get wrestled. But here in this fight, I think he's going to have the technical advantage. He should have the kicking advantage, and who knows about the wrestling advantage. But -300 scares me.
Yeah, Bukauskas is the better mixed martial artist. He can do everything better than Cacaria. Cacaria is an athlete with a little bit of power and a whole hell of a lot of goofiness. Think really early Michelle Pereira, Johnny Walker, those kind of fighters where they're athletes first and they're fighters second. And Cacaria is the worst version of that type of fighter. Don't get me, he's not Michelle Pereira. He's not Johnny Walker. He's just that style. It's goofy. It's weird. It's explosive, but it's unreliable. Bukauskas wins this fight 7.5 out of 10 times. Cacaria might land a right hand 1 or 2 out of 10 times, which means that his implied odds at -300 are too steep. So if you want to take a dog shot first fight of the night, I don't blame you because Cacaria does carry power and Bukauskas can get hit, but I'm not looking to lay money on a dog who is as unreliable as Cacaria. He's just not a good enough fighter, even though Bukauskas is chinny. We talk about this almost every single week. Sometimes you just need to identify the guy that you're not going to parlay. And Bukauskas is the don't parlay of the week. -300 is going to be tempting because he is better. The number is just too steep when the other guy has a possible path to victory. So pass for me, even though my pick will be Bukauskas.
Yeah, and I agree with you with that. He's definitely not a parlay piece. I kind of like Bukauskas by decision because I feel like you're going to get extremely good value on that. Neither one of these guys scream hyper durable. And I just have a feeling when you have two guys that can match what the other one is traditionally known for, which is the athleticism, I just have a feeling that those types of fights can surprise. I think Bukauskas, like you said, he is the more skilled fighter, so that's why I like him by decision. So if I'm looking to bet it, that's the avenue I'm going to go. Am I itching to bet that one? No. But we'll see if that's probably around 7th or 8th best bet on the board for me.
Well, I was surprised by the number. Currently, Bet Online, so you're going to chop off 50 cents on the price tag because Bet Online's numbers are always bigger than they are when we get domestically. It's plus 300.
Yeah.
And if we get anything above 250, I could be talking to Opakowski's decision play. I think he's going to wrestle, as you said, and I think he's just going to just make sure he plays it safe and doesn't lose the fight. So I like, if we get above 250, that could sneak its way into the back end of the card there. All right, next fight of the night. There's so many Yadong jokes I'm just passing by. The next fight of the night, it's not going to be a play unless you have a really clever prop that I'm not seeing. Mansour Abdul Malik is a minus 920 against Nikki Klein at a plus 575 or 575.
Oh, yeah, this one's not a play. Google has this one far more up the card. That's why I was surprised. Abdul Malik, I have my notes somewhere. He's really good. He's athletic. Very good ground and pound once he's there. He's really athletic mover on the feet. Mainly a striker, but has good wrestling in his back pocket. He's a really interesting prospect. He's green. He's 7-0. He's a really interesting prospect. Meanwhile, Klein is just a typical blue-collar, not highly skilled guy. Albeit, he has submissions. He won his Daylight Contender Series. I think it was on 8 days' notice or something like that, and he won it in the first 30 seconds via submission. So I'm not saying he's unskilled. He just lacks skills here in this fight. And Abdul Malik should look very dominant here. I expect him to look dominant. I didn't see the odds ahead of time. Minus 1,000. You never like that when you're have some professional fights. It's a pass, but it's not a shot in the dog because Abdul Malik is just flat out better everywhere. The only way I see Klein gets this thing done is a surprising submission. So if you like the Klein side, you might as well jack up the odds, put a quarter unit sprinkle on it. Do I think that's worth doing? No, I think it's just a pass.
Well, Nick Klein might have the most accurate nickname of the UFC thing. As you described him as blue collar twice, his nickname is Blue Collar.
Well, which
is very funny. He also looks like holy caveman Batman, Clay Guida's big ass son. Like if Clay Guida and Big Norm had a baby, you got Nick Klein. No, look, Abdul Malik he's gonna bulldoze his way. It's kind of like a bone nickel fight. He's gonna win however he chooses to win. It's probably gonna be inside the distance, but the number's too juiced. You're gonna have to do 3 degrees away from the money line with the prop and around. It's just not worth it. It's a pass on the card. And if you're following on Google for fight order, I'm actually following fight odds. So my order is gonna be a little bit different than Google, which is worth saying because I highly doubt that even though DraftKings says this fight is third on the card, there's no way this is the third fight on the card. Javed Basharat at a minus 300 against pretty Ricky Simone at a plus 240. Got to give this one the old sniff test because this is day old milk if I've ever seen it. Is Ricky done and needs to go in the trash, and you're willing to pay money for a new one, or are you going to test that milk one more time?
Great, get me an udder and I'll milk that bad boy all day long. This is hands down the best value I've seen this year. Just putting it out there. Javed Basharat really chapped our ass last fight against Zahabi. Let a lot of people down. Zahabi, better than what I give him credit for. He's a lot better. Javed Basharat laid an egg. Ricky Simone laid an egg his last time out as well. He fought Vicente Oliveira. Viscus Oliveira, thank you. And not only did Simone lose that fight, he just looked like something was wrong. And that's off of a fight against Mario Batista where he didn't look like a world beater like he can look, albeit he looked good in a loss. That Oliveira fight, something seemed off. So now I get Simone where that shouldn't happen twice in a row, going against Javed Basharat, who doesn't scare me as a fighter. The people that support Javed Basharat can sort of look to the Mario Batista Oliveira lens of he's the better striker from a technical standpoint, and he has the wrestling to negate Simone. I see it as Simone is the far more powerful striker. He can push the pace pressure on Javed Basharat, and I think he can bully Basharat. I think we've seen that Basharat, when he's not in a fight that's tailor-made for him, he can get bullied, and I think Simone will bully him. I think this is the best value. I told Dad ahead of time in the videos, life on the line. If I pick Simone or Basharat, no odds, no nothing. My life is on the line. I'm picking Simone, and I'm really not he might be one of my picks on the entire card. I could not like Simone more than I do here. It is arguably it is hands down my best bet for today.
So I'm on Ricky Simone too. Let me make the bear case. I got to remember bear down, bull down, bear up. I don't know. You're the stocks guy.
Bull, bear, bull up.
I can't make that motion. I
Bear
teach high
down.
school without getting sent to HR. So I don't know. I don't understand stocks. It's just, let me make the case for Javid Basharat here. Ricky Simone terribly struggled to grapple a long fighter with good takedown defenses last time out. He has not looked like he's been able to string his striking and his wrestling together in a while. It's looked very strike, stop, wrestle, stop. And someone who has to push a pace, kind of like Merab, where he constantly is pressuring forward, you have to string those things together. And he hasn't. That made me think Basharat might be a slight favorite, not a minus 300, because Basharat has struggled very clearly, evident by Zahabi. But even before Zahabi, in fights that Basharat has won, he has struggled on his back foot, and he has struggled against power strikers who are willing to fling in the pocket. Because Basharat does not carry much power, if someone forces him into a bulldozer, bulldog type of schoolyard fight, he really struggles. And Zahabi had the technique to implement that game plan at a high level. But bottom line was the power and the bulldog is what beat Basharat. You ain't going to get more bulldog than Ricky Simone. So as long as Ricky isn't done, and there's no reason to think he is. He's 32. The age isn't there. Yeah, he got rocked a couple of fights ago, but Basharat doesn't carry power, so you don't have to really worry about that as much. You had to worry about power from Batista and Oliveira. You don't have to worry about that from Basharat. There's no reason Ricky should be a plus 240 here. The line is flat out wrong. I like playing this, though, in two ways. A little bit of a hedge. I like playing Ricky for 1.5 units to win roughly 4 straight. And then I want a half unit, maybe a full, on plus 3.5. Then all he has to do is win a round, and we cash our bet. Basharat is not getting a finish. Nothing he's ever done has been overly powerful or intimidating. I like playing Ricky in both of those spots. We'll talk unit management at the end of the video, but that's how I would attack it.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I was just going to put 2 units on him, Simone, that is, but I like your avenue. It's much more thought out. I like the win of 4 units on the straight play, and then whatever the 3.5 is for additional 1 to 1.5. I think this one's worth shooting your shot. I mean, that cute girl saying by the punch bowl at a dance, it's kind of worth shooting the shot on that one.
What kind?
What is this?
I'm just curious. When have you ever been to a party with a punch bowl?
I mean, does jungle juice count? Does alcohol in the?
Yeah, there you go. A little bit of what? This reminds me back years ago, Gilbert Burns was an underdog against Wonder Boy, and we went heavy on Gilbert Burns. Now, the number wasn't this high, but we thought the wrong guy was favored, and we laid some money down on Dorino, and we cashed that ticket pretty comfortably. That kind of reminds me of this fight here.
That's good comp, actually.
All right, our next fight, we got a guy who is highly controversial, not Bryce Mitchell, a different highly controversial fighter, Nursultan Ruziboyev, who's, you can't help but say it with a Russian accent. Keep him with the milk trend. Grab a white Russian, why don't you? Nursultan Ruziboyev at a minus 290 against Eric Mikancio. And if you've never heard of Eric Mikancio, I don't blame you. He's 34. He's 9-2. He's making his UFC debut coming from not Contender Series, Ultimate Fighter, LFA, PFL, Ryzen, or any other real kind of promotion. And he tends to lose by knockout. So his path to victory tends to be bullying people. That's about it. Meanwhile, Nursultan Ruziboyev's best attribute is I don't know how the hell this guy makes 185. He's enormous. His dimensions are not accurately represented at 6'2", 185. He's got to be 6'4", 240 by the time he walks in the cage. Guy grows 2 inches. He gains 60 pounds. He's a thick boy. He is a thick boy in the cage, and he really tends to finish fighters. You can mention all of his faults, his cardio, his technique, his defensive awareness. All of those are legitimate faults against actual real fighters. But when he fights bums, which at a 34-9 record, most of his fights have been against bums, he tends to finish them, finishing them 24 times. This is a sacrificial lamb for Nursultan Ruziboyev. For some reason, the UFC wants to promote this guy. I don't know why. He's 31 with a very suspect record and a suspect game, but he's getting that gift. I love him in parlays. I love him inside the distance, and I like him by KO. I think he gets this one done pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'd be hesitant by KO because I can also see him getting submission.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like picking your poison. I do trust him in parlays. He reminds me there's a few fighters where all of a sudden they catch a sizable win behind them and they just skyrocket into fear. Benoit Saint-Denis was almost got killed by Alexi Dos Santos, or however he has like 10 names. His first time in the UFC, almost gets killed, and then he gets really hot. Now he's becoming this guy that's a 2-1 favorite against Dustin Poirier. Not that Ruziboyev ever reached that level, but his last fight against Joaquin Buckley, who is surging, people made the case for Ruziboyev. I mean, he was very popular. We went the Buckley route. I remember that. I mean, I'm a big Buckley guy. Surprising, but I just love him. Athletic wrestlers. But I just think Ruziboyev, I think you're getting a good price against a guy that's substantially worse than Ruziboyev's last opponent. Ruziboyev should be fighting in the top 15, that caliber of fighters. Could be around 20. Whatever you pronounce his name, Makanko is not that. Ruziboyev should get this thing done. Very comfortable in parlays.
Yeah, Ruziboyev is not as good as the fanboys make him sound, and he's not as bad as the haters make him sound, but he is far better than the sacrificial lamb. All right, next fight. I'm deferring to you. It's your boy. It's the OG toxic ex-girlfriend. That's Dominic Reyes. This was your first ever rebound toxic ex-girlfriend. Not talking Ibo Aslan, who's a minus 175. I'm talking about the Hulk, Ion Cutelaba, at a plus 145. What do you see? What do you think? What do you like? I got a tequila to sit back, sip, and listen.
This one's hard because I do like Ibo Aslan. He's let me down. He lost. He let me down against the Pleasure Man. The Pleasure Man beat him. I think you were on the Pleasure Man.
I think Aslan came back and won that in the third round. I'll Google that for you right now.
He got submitted.
Oh yeah, me and Anton Turkali, we got something going on. It's like me and Mrs. Jones.
Though. We were opposed. He did come back in third round. Aslan in his last.
Yes, you're right.
But Aslan is a guy that throws heavy punches, kind of straight down the barrel, but he lands. He's pretty accurate with his punches, and he's extremely dangerous, particularly early on. I think in this fight, it favors him greatly in the first round because Cutelaba is there to be hit, even though he can do the sort of Tyson-esque movement with his head. In terms of where he kind of just shells up and moves side to side. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
The only Tyson comp you can give Cutelaba is Tyson Chicken. There's no Mike Tyson comp in his game.
That's fair. But all I'm saying is Aslan will land a good shot early on. Can Cutelaba get through that? Don't know. If he can, Cutelaba, if he so chooses, which he often does not, he should be able to wrestle his way to victory. I really like Cutelaba by decision here in this fight. I'm a huge Cutelaba guy. I think I back him every fight. So take it with a grain of salt. But I think even though Cutelaba's got immense power, Aslan's young and durable. Cutelaba does not have submissions to his game. If he wins, this will be a grind him, gruel him out type of fight against the cage. Could get it to the mat, and Cutelaba's just going to old man his way, even though he's not that old, to a victory. If Aslan wins, I think it's going to be by KO. Cutelaba by decision should get you fairly favorable odds. This reminds me a lot of the first fight where I think we're going to get some good odds. And I like this Cutelaba by decision more than Bukakis by decision. It'd probably get similar odds of plus 300 if I had to guess without looking. But yeah, I'm a Cutelaba guy. What can I say?
Well, Bet Online has Cutelaba at plus 425 by decision, so we'll probably get 350 domestically.
There you go.
I will say, if Cutelaba wins, despite his Hulk demeanor where he'll paint himself green, he'll scream, he'll go insane, the guy, and most of his fights being won by knockout, which most of them are, the guy's only path to victory in this fight is wrestling. And you said it really well. Once he's down, he doesn't do anything with it. His ground and pound is overrated, and his submission game is mostly non-existent. So I think if Cutelaba wins, it's a round 3 or decision type of situation, completely on the basis of Aslan gassing out. Aslan, for me, is too athletic for Cutelaba to consistently wrestle him. But above all else, Cutelaba is far too hittable against a very powerful but basic striker. This could not be a bigger pass for me. It's Cutelaba. I don't bet Kutalaba fights, but also Aslan is the new Kutalaba where you don't know what the hell you're going to get. I don't like either of these guys, but I think the number is spot on. I copped Aslan at a minus 160. He's minus 175. I don't see a whole lot of value anywhere.
Can I interest you in a quarter unit sprinkle Kutalaba by decision, and then a half unit play Aslan round 1 KO for plus 225? So you're risking 0.75 units on this fight, and you could get back 2 full units if Kutalaba wins. Or you can lose nothing if Aslan wins round 1 KO. Just out there.
Maybe. We'll circle back and see if I don't like playing both sides of the fight. No, I'd rather just take the half unit on Kutalaba decision.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say if you're gonna play, I suggested quarter unit, so you're bumping it up 100% to a half unit.
What am I gonna do with the quarter unit? What the fuck am I gonna do with the quarter unit? I'm gonna go buy an airhead.
The value is too strong to pass.
Tequila number 2 is coming quarter unit bullshit. All right,
that's the mantra of tonight of the Seattle card. The value is too good to pass. It's ironic. There's not much value in Seattle anymore. The market's obscene.
You're telling me. I used to go every single year. They got good fish there, not surprisingly. Also, side note, Seattle, pierogies. Not pierogi. I'm not mispronouncing pierogi. Pierogi. It's this kind of fried dough that isn't sweet, stuffed with meats and cheeses, but they also have a dessert version. My wife and I go. They got 15. It's right in the market. They only sell 15 different types of pierogies. We go 3 days. We go visit my brother-in-law, her brother. We order 5 on day 1, 5 on day 2, 5 on day 3. We get all 15. They're phenomenal. Yes, my bra holds the tits, but the food fills the gut. Next fight.
Surprised by that.
Next fight, I do see pretty good value, but I'm a little bit scared. So you're gonna have to tell me the boogeyman ain't coming. We have Melquizel Costa at a minus 120. I know I'm bouncing around based on Google, but I'm following DK. Melquizel Costa at a minus 120 against probably my favorite nickname in the UFC, Andre Touchy Feely at a plus 1 Hondo.
Well, I know you and I see this the exact same way. I do have to reference
Sarah's note. Joe's girlfriend might have the best note of the year on Melquizel Costa.
Melquizel Costa, a fight that he won. Keep in mind, how can you be bad and ugly? That's a good note. It's a lot. Costa really, he's really a guy that he's funky. He presents like he does weird movements in the octagon. He can put himself in unique positions on the mat to try to find submissions. Against Andre Touchy Feely, a guy that has been there, seen that, done it all. A leader of the Team Alpha Male Gym, Uriah Faber, who is fighting soon in the Global Fight League.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, they got all the old heads.
Oh no, it's not the Global Fight. It's the Geriatric Fight League. That's what the GFL stands for.
Exactly. They should change that. But Andre Touchy Feely, he's going to match Costa's size. He's going to be the better striker of the two, and he's the better wrestler of the two. I just think Costa can really only win this thing if he puts Feely in a very susceptible, unique position. But Feely has gone recently against Bill Algeo, who can find himself in weird positions. Not that he's a submission artist of Costa, but he also, Feely that is, failed to get submitted by, you named him before, Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell looked good in the wrestling department against Feely, but that fight was extremely close, and Bryce Mitchell could not get a submission. Bryce Mitchell's grappling is much better than Costa's grappling in the totality of it. I really, really like Feely here.
So the reason I'm scared, who is the, I know he's 135 or 145, south of the equator guy, blue hair, not Joe Anderson Brito, but he's a big, Makonda. Exactly. Makonda, whatever his name is. That's who I picture when I think of Melquizel Costa. Bricked up, explosive, powerful. Very similar to Joe Anderson Brito. That's not Melquizel Costa's game. Melquizel Costa creates chaos. That's what he wants to do. A lot of pressure, a lot of cardio, and a lot of chaos. Andre Feely's cardio, phenomenal. His response to chaos, he's seen everything. You're not going to surprise the guy. The only thing that scares me is Feely tends to lose to shorter, bricked up punchers. Joe Anderson Brito, Dan Ige, Nathaniel Wood, guys who, for what, I don't know if it's a height thing, the taller guy backing up. I think Costa could go out there and flatline Feely. I think that's possible. Costa's athleticism, he does carry power, and Feely has this weird Achilles heel fighting guys who are shorter, faster, or not faster, shorter, explosive, and powerful. But that is such a small path to victory. I think if anything else happens in the fight, beside Acosta stone cold walk-off KO, I think Fili dog walks him here. I think Fili is going to look dominant on the feet at range. His jab is phenomenal. His defensive wrestling is good enough. His offensive wrestling is good enough. I think we see a grown man mixed martial artist go out there and put all facets of MMA together. I am scared, though, of that bricked up explosive power puncher because Fili does tend to lose to those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Costa as that at all. I see him as the funky, lean kind of guy in the octagon. This fight reminds me of, like, I think it was I'm looking back when Jim Miller fought maybe Gabriel Benitez or something like that. This just feels like a fight. We've seen it before. Jim Miller has had one of them where the vet just really runs circles around the younger guy. And Costa has 28 professional fights. And this is his 5th fight in the UFC, so he's not green by any stretch, but Fili has so much experience and experience everywhere the fight can take place. At pick 'em odds, I mean, I like 1.5, 2 units on Fili. 2 units, I'm good with that. I think it's significant value at pick 'em odds in this fight.
I wanted to express the fear, but I'm putting 2 unis on Fili. Look, we won last week, and we won trust in our nuts, not our guts. Our guts have led us down a lot of bad paths over the years, but our nuts have not. We're trusting our nuts here. 2 unis on Fili. All right. We got our next fight. I'm curious what you're thinking here because this is another one of your guys that you tend to read pretty well. We have Alonzo Menifield kicking off the main card at a -205 against Julius Walker. Now, if you don't know who Julius Walker is, once again, I don't blame you. But he's a pretty good athlete. On John Anik's podcast, John Anik talked about his high school basketball ability. Apparently, the guy scored, I was at 2,400 points. He's the leading scorer of all time in his high school basketball team. He had a couple looks at college ball and decided to stick with fighting. So he is a very, very good athlete. And you look at him, you understand why. Like, washboard is an understatement for this guy's physique. He's a grapple first fighter, but his wrestling isn't great. He tends to expose poor grapplers. What I do like about his game is I like that he goes for ground and pound. You don't see that a lot with up-and-comers because ground and pound can get you into some bad positions. Guys can escape. Now, there's a lot of defensive grapplers who can get away when you kind of create the space from the chest to chest. But Julius Walker's ground and pound, I liked it. I like that he works in elbows. I like that he works in close proximity strikes. But the bottom line with Julius Walker, outside of a great nickname in Juicebox, which is a very good nickname, I have not been impressed with anything. It's just another one of these guys I think is an athlete first and a fighter second. But Alonzo Menifield at -205, that's a big number.
It is a big number. And he's a guy that I prefer backing as an underdog. He's traditionally comes in at usually +200. So it's weird to see him on the other side of the minus number. Menifield's an athletic guy that if he's on, he looks good because he's not inept on the feet, and he's a bricked up shithouse with athleticism who can grapple in his own right. So Menifield I like as a dog because if he comes to the octagon right, he can upset people. Think Dustin Jacoby, where Jacoby is actually ebbs and flows the way that he comes in about. This fight is a very comfortable pass for me because it just smells funky. Menifield, not a traditional favorite. His opponent hasn't fought a single soul, in my opinion. Go to Tapology and just click through. That's what I was doing when you were talking. Click through his opponents. He fought a guy, Bryant Porritt. His nickname is Huggy Bear. You gotta click on this guy's photo. Not good. I thought it might have been a picture of you or I, and then I saw his face. Like I realized, okay, it's not us. But really, he hasn't fought anyone. And yes, he's ran through his competition, but this is a significant leap. Do I trust Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard? I do in terms of identifying this guy is UFC talent. They typically don't throw inept fighters to the wolves. But here in this fight, it feels like a lot to take on a guy that's entering his 7th professional fight who hasn't fought a single soul, going against Alonzo Menifield with a ton of UFC experience. It's a pass because Menifield's traditionally not a guy that's a favorite. Walker's 6'4" and extremely green, and you don't really know what you're getting. Notably, like you talked about his wrestling. Can he wrestle Menifield? I don't really know because Menifield's not horrible in that aspect, but you also can wrestle him on the field. There's a lot of ambiguity in this fight. It's a very comfortable pass.
So Brian Porritt, shout out on PTL here. Sherdog picture, not Tapology. First of all, 3-7 record in the cage. So he's fighting when he got this picture. He's wearing a black Under Armour cut off, skin tight, like spank situation. You've said for years that if women can wear tank tops in the cage, men ought to be able to too. Well, Bryant Porritt, I bet you wear a t-shirt while swimming, bud, because apparently you wear one while you're fighting. It's not a good look. Take the shirt off. You might get a W and you might get a tally in the win column. 100% pass. There's just too much unknown with old Juice Box, and Alonzo Menafield, very inconsistent, despite should be the better fighter.
Yeah.
Next fight, big old number. But man, another one. Google Gene Silva Sherdog picture. He's sitting shirtless with the Fighting Nerds glasses on an armchair like you smoke a cigar in. He looks like a just batshit crazy cartel boss. It is fucking awesome. If that's not an album cover or or a poster for a movie, I don't know what is. But Gene Silva, who's running through fucking everybody, is a minus 575 against Melsik Bagdasaryan. And if you don't remember Melsik Bagdasaryan, then you're either young or forgetful like me. But Bagdasaryan was supposed to be legit. He's kind of similar to Zabit. And if you don't remember Zabit, apparently he's practicing medicine. Good for you. You used to practice violence. Now you practice medicine. Both of these guys are athletic, spinny kickboxers who like to be very video game style striking, despite having the Dagestani and Russian appeal. And I really do believe ability. Bagdasaryan is inconsistent in terms of he doesn't fight very often, and he's had a lot of injuries. So the 575 tag, I think, is way too big, but you don't know what Bagdasaryan is going to be. Even back when he was fighting semi-consistently, you saw what he could be, but he never really put it together.
Yeah, and I think that's like good point about Bagdasaryan because he is a talented fighter.
Yes,
a talented fighter getting him at plus 450 or around there is tantalizing. But Gene Silva is just that dude. He is the gangster. I mean, he's just a gangster. He should be fighting the baddest motherfucker. I mean, I know that belt is typically touted for like the Justin Gaethjes, the Max Holloways, like that level of fighter. It's like we can't get a champion to fill a pay-per-view card, we should throw the BMF belt out there. Gene Silva probably will fight for that one day. This man, his last two fights, ran through Charles Jourdain and Drew Dober, two bad mother truckers, and Silva ran through them. Silva went up in weight to lightweight to fight Drew Dober, and he looked incredible. I mean, it was a close fight until it wasn't. This dude is legit, and he knows it. When it was on Dana White Contender Series, you could see it clear as day where he's going to take his time, play with his food, but eventually that man is going to land, and he's going to put you out. This fight, I fully expected you like the Bagdasaryan side until you don't. He's going to be very fast. He's going to look good early. Silva's very patient. So this is a fight where if you get very nervous, you're a kind of guy like, oh, fuck, I should have done this. You probably shouldn't really watch this one because it's going to scare you until it doesn't. I like a Silva by KO. That price is going to be too juicy in my regard. And you're probably liking by submission. But Bagdasaryan, he's a guy that's going to look good until he doesn't. He does a lot of weird stuff. Silva, in today's day and age, 2025 MMA, Silva should be able to get a training partner that can resemble Bagdasaryan enough for nothing to be too surprising. I expect this fight to look very close until it doesn't, meaning Silva should get this thing done inside distance. The price is not going to be right for me, so it's a pass.
A couple of things on Silva to add on because I agree with everything you said. One, Fighting Nerds, if you don't remember 2024, I may have been undefeated and may have had almost 100% finish rate or close to it. 2025, they had the one girl who fought a couple of weeks ago who joined Fighting Nerds last second and then got bet even though she shouldn't have, and we were on the other side and cashed a big ticket. But Fighting Nerds is a legitimate, fun, dangerous gym. Think Shoot to Box like 3 years ago when Charles Oliveira and all his blonde buddies were sitting in the sauna. It's a legit gym. And Gene Silva is their guy. He is the reincarnation of Yoel Romero. He's fucking crazy, but he takes his time. Yeah. He's the guy that you make him bleed, he's going to lick his gloves, smile at you, and then murder you. Like, he's insane. I love him. He's what Sean Strickland thinks Sean Strickland is.
Yeah, it's so true.
You're right. You nailed it. I like Gene Silva by sub at plus 550 because Melisik Bagdasaryan has been submitted twice. There are only his 2 losses. I also don't mind him by decision at plus 250, but I don't like going decision on Fighting Nerds fighters. So I wouldn't be opposed to a double chance decision sub. I think you're going to get about a plus 300-ish on DraftKings. It's not quite available yet. But for me, that was like the 9th fight. Or not the 9th. I'm sorry. We only have like 12 fights. Like the 7th best bet on the card. And it's just because I want to get a little action on a Gene Silva fight. He's that entertaining. It's not a good or a smart bet. You're betting, if you bet by sub, based on Melsik's inability instead of on Gene Silva's ability. And I don't ever think that's a smart way to bet props. So for me, it's also a pass. But if you like to play everything, plus 500 ain't ever going to hurt you. A little sprinkle on the sub. He does have 2 wins by sub. He is fighting out of Fighting Nerds, which is a good grappling camp. So it's not going to hurt you to throw a little bit of pizza money on sub. But as far as PTL goes, Jason Williams, white chocolate, pass it off.
Yeah, I agree.
Next fight. We got Bob coming in an underdog. We got Bobby Font at a plus 145. Rob Font plus 145 against Gene Matsumoto, which I believe was an Iron Chef at a minus 165. Dad gets a shout out every week. Mom, that's your shout out. Iron Chef, good show. Gene Matsumoto minus 165.
Yeah, it sucks because I mean, really, I don't know what I was expecting because I wanted Matsumoto at a lower caliber opponent than Rob Font. Didn't want to catch weight, but also want to be able to bet Matsumoto. So this is a bettable number, but it's a big step up in competition. Matsumoto, he's a guy that I've written in the past where he's kind of like a spar-like striker, but he has extremely good calf kicks. He's very well-rounded. Michael Bisping said that he was a future champion. I think it was on Dana 10 series when he said that. He's young and he's extremely talented. He fought a very close fight his last time against Bracatona. We were talking before the videos. I have a lot of respect for Bracatona. He's not an easy out. The fight before that, submitted Dan Argueta, who is a very tricky opponent to go against. Matsumoto is very, very talented. He's a guy, when guys are this talented, this young, albeit they can fight close fights, these guys just find ways to win. They just find ways to somehow secure a victory. But it's a big step up in competition against Rob Font, who is a guy that I don't think is over the hill for being 37 years old. He has extremely good boxing. He has solid wrestling, more so than what people give him credit for. And he just beat a guy that kind of can mirror Matsumoto and Kyler Phillips. I thought Kyler Phillips won that fight, but Rob Font got the victory. It's a very, very tight, close fight, and I really am going back and forth with who I pick relative to the odds.
So I think the odds are mostly accurate. I had the fight near a pick'em because Matsumoto is, at this point, I mean, he's 12 years younger, is the more talented fighter, but Rob Font is the more experienced and technical fighter. So do you take the upside of the young gun? Do you take the experience of the old guard? Again, it's the old day-old milk, which what are you going to do? I like Rob Font's jab and knowledge of how to win rounds. I also like Rob Font. New England Cartel boys, Calvin Kattar, Rob Font, do not get a whole lot of credit for their defensive wrestling. We saw Calvin Kattar against Yusuf Zalal last week. The guy can still defensively wrestle, even though Zalal's wrestling is what got him to that level of 145. So Gene Matsumoto, who is primarily a wrestler, not exclusively, but primarily, I don't think is going to have the path to victory that he's used to having. Similarly, his last 2 fights, Brad Katona and who was it?
Dan Argueta.
Dan Argueta's a wrestler, but Katona's really well-rounded. Matsumoto is a better well-rounded fighter than those guys, and he's able to go to his off-speed pitch, his backup game plan, and execute at a higher level than those guys at their off-speed pitch or their backup game plan. I don't think it's going to be his second best path to victory is going to be better than Rob Font's. The bottom line here, I think this is going to be a very close fight. I fully expect it to go the distance. I think it's going to come down to if Matsumoto can wrestle timely, then I think he might steal a few rounds. I think if Rob Font can land a couple of big shots, I think he could steal a few rounds because Matsumoto's defense, as you said, spar-like isn't the best. So I like either, depending on how big of a swing you want to take. Safer bet, Rob Font plus 3.5. You're going to get about a minus 110-ish. I like that a lot. If you want to take a bigger swing, Rob Font by decision is a plus 250. I like that too. So it kind of comes down to your style. Here at PTL, I like to pick winners. So I prefer the plus 3.5, cover my ass, hedge my bet. Don't need to win the fight, just need to win a round. And I think I wouldn't be surprised by a split decision. So I really like the plus 3.5 play.
Yeah, that's plus 3.5 play a lot.
All right. So we'll play plus 3.5. We'll talk about unit management in the end. We got our next fight. This is a tough breakdown for me. Joe and I just talked about our favorite fighters. We rank our top 10 or top 15. And All In came in at my number 4 favorite fighter currently on the roster, Brendan Allen. I've loved this guy since his UFC debut. You talked about a different guy being blue collar. That's fucking Brendan Allen. This guy, he's not the best striker. He's not the best athlete. He's not the best wrestler or grappler. But damn it if he doesn't put it all together. Damn it if he doesn't go all out in the cage. And damn it if he didn't earn that number next to his name. I was so happy to see it. But he's going against the Mexican Dagestani, Anthony Hernandez. And I say that because if this guy had an over and off at the end of his name, he'd be a bigger number than he would be in most of his fights. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez at a minus 260 against Brendan All In, my 3rd or 4th favorite fighter in the UFC, Allen, at a plus 220.
Man, I know it's been said before, but you can tell we're related. I was going to call him Alexander Hernandezov. If his name was Alexander Hernandezov, he'd be a lot more highly touted than he is. This dude can freaking wrestle. I mean, his wrestling and grappling in totality, because the man's got submissions. He's got submissions for days. He's really good at 1, getting the takedown, and 2, working his way to a submission, working his way to finding a back, working his way into an arm triangle. He is very talented, and he's really coming into his own as a fighter from a cardio standpoint, from knowing when or how to progress his fight. His last 2 opponents, Kopylov and Pereira, 2 extremely dangerous middleweights, and Hernandez made it look easy. This fight won't be that. They have fought one another a long time ago, I think on a regional circuit.
LFA in 2018.
And I don't think that's as interesting as what social media might start building it out to be, because Hernandez is just flat out a different guy.
So is Allen.
He's honed his skills. He's similar, but he's honed his skills. But Brendan Allen is no slouch either. Hernandezov is an extremely great wrestler. Brendan Allen's no slouch. This reminds me of when you have let's call it a Peter Yan Aljamain Sterling. You got the Russian, but you also got the American, who is a really, really talented wrestler. Sterling is a better wrestler than Yan, so it's not a great one-to-one comparison, but you get the gist. Hernandezov should be the favorite, but a 300 favorite is one that I do not trust. He's got to change his name, Michael. I can't help the guy. I'm trying to help the guy out best I can. I work in marketing. Come on now. Hernandezov should be the favorite. He should not be this significant of a favorite, albeit he probably wins 7 out of 10 times, 6 out of 10. If it's 6 out of 10, then the implied odds do suggest Brendan Allen has some value. But if it's 7 out of 10 times, there's 0 value I see on this fight.
So a couple of things here. Firstly, the way that I handicap is I simply go put a percentage chance that a fighter is going to win. I put a percentage number next to their name. Then I do a quick calculation, not mentally, computers, to tell me what that implied odd results in a money line. And I gave Anthony Hernandez 7 out of 10, which is a minus 230-ish.
Oh, it's more than that.
No, 7 out of 10 is a minus 230. You do double check my math here. I was busy.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was doing.
So 7 out of 10 minus 230, which, by the way, if you never realized that before, when you're parlaying people, when someone's a minus 300, that's like an 80% chance of winning. And that's a big number. We'll talk about that another day. Second thing here, I checked all these numbers this morning. Hernandez was a minus 260 at 9 a.m. This is now 7 p.m. He's a minus 300. That's a 40-cent difference in a matter of 11 hours, not even. That's a big deal. So money's coming in on Fluffy. That being said, my heart wants Brendan Allen. I think Brendan Allen is going to give Hernandezov a legitimate fight here. Brendan Allen is a dog in there, and he is going to make this ugly and bloody and hard, and he's going to fight his ass off. But there's nothing that Allen can do that I think Fluffy is going to be behind in. The argument against Hernandez is that he's a little bit hittable on the feet. Absolutely true. Absolutely. Like most Russians, he's a little hittable on the feet. Just add the "ov" on.
Yep.
People on Twitter I mean, just slobbed Brendan Allen's knob for his striking performances last couple of times out. And I told you at the start of the video, I love Brendan Allen. Fourth favorite fighter on the whole fucking roster. I'm taking notes and I'm writing about how his striking is fine. He came in a little heavy. He looks a little bit slow. He kept getting hit by a check left hook. And I go on Twitter and people, are just gagging on this guy striking. I don't know what Twitter saw that I didn't see. And I'm about as biased in favor of Allen as you can be. So when you hear people talk about how Allen's striking has progressed to a level that is going to give Hernandez issues, I disagree. I think Allen is severely behind Kopylov in striking. Kopylov is a dynamic kickboxer, and he had no chance against Hernandezov. It hurts me to say this. I think Hernandezov gets a late finish. I think because Brendan Allen's the kind of guy to go out in a sword. So I think Hernandezov it's gonna be close in round 1, pull away in round 2, and finish in round 3. I like him with Ruziboyev. I think anything under 300 is parlayable. I'm not loving it. I'm not itching to bet it. Both of the guys are a little bit inconsistent. Not inconsistent. Ruziboyev is inconsistent. Allen's going to give it a fight. But if you are a parlay bettor, my parlay of the week was Ruziboyev and Hernandez. It hurts me, but I think he wins the fight. And I'm not willing to dip into the prop pool because Allen is that tough, that much of a dog. You don't know if he's going to go out in a sword, if he's going to survive. You can't prop bet it. So I'd rather parlay with Ruziboyev.
Yeah, and I like I think this fight does go to decision. I think Allen is. I mean, I do think he could. Allen's smart enough to realize if he's down in round, it's round 3. He's not just going to land his back. He's going to put himself in a susceptible position to try to get a victory. But Allen's no slouch when it comes to grappling. I like Ruziboyev parlayed with round 3 starts. Over 2.5 is like a minus 185. So round 3 starts, let's just call it a minus 230 for funsies. Minus 230 with Ruziboyev. I really like that. I don't see this thing being a round 1 finish whatsoever because I think if a finish does happen, it's going to be via the grappling department. And if it's a grappling department, I think it's going to be later in the fight. I had to say I think this fight does go to decision. But I really like the round 3 starts parlay with Ruziboyev.
I like that better too because I think I didn't give Allen the credit he deserves. Like, despite loving him, I kind of shit on him a little bit. The guy is a fucking grappler. He is
very good.
I love how he bulldogs his way into position on the mat, and he just kind of muscles his way to positions. But he's also technically sound. Fluffy's not going to run through him. This is a fight. And I really like that. I like that better than Fluffy straight. I like, I'm with you. If we can get anything under 300 on round 3 starts rather than Fluffy by himself, I like that with Ruziboyev. I think it's a clever way to bet it. All right. One of the fights that got me from a casual MMA watcher to what we do now, which is drink alcohol and gamble and yell at UFC, was Song Yadong. We were at a bar called Mason's, drunk off my ass.
Surprise.
And I'm yelling, drop dong on him. I thought I was the funniest guy in the bar. I promise you I was obnoxious and problematic. But gosh damn it, drop dong on him is fun to say when you're drunk. Old Dongy at a minus 280 against Triple C, Henry Cejudo, plus 240. I'm curious what you're thinking as I've thought about this for the last 48 hours, fairly in depth. My 3rd hour class today did not get any teaching. I just thought about Yadong and Cejudo. They just occupied themselves for 80 minutes. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think this one's interesting. Cejudo probably deserves a little more credit than he gets since he's came back into the UFC. Because he's not horrendous, but he is old, and I think Yadong gets me in trouble because he has such immense power. He's extremely fast. He has good wrestling, and he is extremely fast and powerful on the feet. But he doesn't land with extreme precision, and I think that kind of hurts him. But he is a guy that you do not want your favorite fighter to fight. Yadong, that is. Peter Yan, I want Peter Yan to get on a shot of sugar so bad. And when Yan had to go through Yadong last year, I was very upset by that because I think Yadong can beat damn near any bantamweight on the roster at any given moment, not named Merab. Merab has separated himself in the division. But Yadong is legit. He's so fast, so powerful. Cejudo's obviously an Olympic gold medalist wrestler, and he's got incredible wrestling, but Yadong's no slouch in the wrestling department whatsoever. I think even though Yadong has trouble landing cleanly to get the victory, I like him by KO here in this fight for the odds. I think there's a significant speed difference in the hand department. There's a 10-year age gap, and Yadong has immense power. If he hits Cejudo cleanly, I think Cejudo's going down. And over a 5-round fight, I think Yadong's going to have the opportunity to land one clean shot. And I think that's all it's going to take is one true clean shot. Cejudo has fought Sterling and Merab since coming back. He has not fought a striker to the level of Yadong. Merab, keep in mind, he's more of a wrestler, but he does have striking. I do like Yadong by KO.
Well, apparently I'm shitting on my favorite things today. I love Song Yadong. He's probably 17 or 18 on that top 20 list of my favorite fighters. I like Cejudo here for a few reasons. First and foremost, I think this fight should be Yadong as a 150 favorite, 170 favorite, not a 280. So I think there's just numerical value on Cejudo. Secondly, most bantamweight fights go the distance. Now, let's look more in depth here. I'm not going to Yanni the Greeky. I didn't put my teeth whitening strip on. Holy Florida. Did you see him last time he was on oh my goodness, that was bad. I think my TV has a permanent burn mark from the reflection of his teeth. Anyways, looking specifically here, I think Yadong struggles against calf kicks, and Cejudo does have an excellent calf kick. Yadong is the better striker. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Yadong, outside of Sugar, might be the best pure striker. Sanhagen. Man, bantamweight's great. Yadong's an excellent. He's a top 5 striker in the bantamweight division. Cejudo, although his striking is fast and voluminous, isn't overly impressive. Yadong, I have no problem. I don't think he's got any problem timing Cejudo. He's a little brawly at times, but I don't think he's going to have a problem finding Cejudo. Cejudo is tough as fucking nails. What I do have a problem with Yadong is, A, he can be wrestled. Cejudo is a phenomenal wrestler, but the guy has not wrestled in a while. Since that shoulder injury that got him out of the UFC, we have not seen Triple C, the wrestler, in the UFC. I don't think he's got that level in him anymore at 37 years old. So I don't think that wrestling is going to be his primary path to victory. Think really late TJ Dillashaw. It's there, but it's not really there. Yadong, I don't love his cardio. I thought he started to fade in round 3 against Peter Yan. And this is a 5-round fight against Henry Cejudo, who can go for fucking ever. So I think Cejudo is going to look better the later that it gets. And then lastly, and this is a little bit narrative, but not quite, in a close fight, damage plays a factor in the judges' scorecards. Yadong is starting to get to that Diaz level of scar tissue. And if Cejudo can make him bleed, that might be enough to steal a round. The bottom line, though, is I expect this fight to be close. I think this fight's going to go the distance. I like Cejudo for a value play, and I like Cejudo plus 5.5 from a safe play. However, if Yadong wins, I expect it to be via finish. So my play would be Cejudo straight at all, because I don't think Yadong wins a decision. So the plus 5.5 really isn't worth it for me. So I'd rather take 2-1 on my money on Cejudo straight. Calf kick, cardio, pressure, wrestling outperforms the power, the youth, the explosiveness of Yadong. I think it's a close fight. I think it's a fun fight. Give me the old man to get the W.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't disagree with. I think the best point you made was the odds. The odds do seem hyperinflated in Yadong's favor. I'm still gonna hold true with my Yadong by KO. I'm seeing it like Bet Rivers is plus 235. I'm seeing other places plus 195. So let's just call it plus 210. I do see value on that. The cardio concern is something noteworthy. So how about on Bet Rivers? I'm seeing plus 650 Yadong round 1-2 victory. So you get rounds 1 or round 2 because
at plus 600.
That's what I'm seeing on Bet Rivers.
Tell you what, I'll put that down because if he gets the knockout, it's going to be early. Once Cejudo figures out the timing, even if he's losing, Cejudo will evade and survive for 15 minutes. I think if Yadong catches him, it's going to be early. I agree with you on that. And 6-1 in your money, you're never going to get me to say no on a $600 or 6-1 in your bet.
Yeah, the argument against that is Yadong has had some success later in fights. So if he can time it, he can get some success later in fights. But I just have a gut feeling that Yadong's going to catch Cejudo, and at plus 650, I'm going to ride that gut feeling. You talked about the gut not really netting positive return, but at plus 650, it's a quarter half unit play on it to get back something. Half for like 3 is 325 for that matter. Is a really good value.
Well, we'll see if you can convince me while I'm sober. But that is 6-1 is fairly convincing. But I am officially picking Cejudo to win the fight. I do fully recognize, though, he's hittable. Yadong has power, and that typically results in an early finish. So even though I'm on Cejudo as a pick, I do see the value in round 1, round 2. That's a little bit nuanced. It's a little bit advanced thinking. So some of our 15 followers, I hope you're able to think a little bit, or better yet, don't think, just listen. All right, so our plays so far are kind of our leans. Follow us on betmma.tips, at Pound the Lines. Follow us on Twitter or X at Pound the Lines. We tweet all of our picks. We tweet all of our plays with unit management, the whole 9 yards. But what we've talked about so far, Ricky Simone, money line, plus 240. Ricky Simone, plus 3.5, kind of as a backdoor hedge. It's kind of a double down or a hedge. Andre Fili, money line. I think those 3 plays are solidified. Yep. Those are going to happen. Rob Font plus 3.5. I'm very happy with that. I was willing to play him straight. So those 4 are going to happen. Now we kind of have to figure out which of the next 3 do we like the most, or all of them, because fuck it, I'm drinking. Ruza Boy and round 3 starts with Fluffy and Brendan Allen. I think we both like that a fair amount. I'd like to see that parlayed as a minus 150 or better. If it clears 150 on the parlay, which it should not, but technically round 3 starts is not available domestically. So in case something goofy happens, but Yadong in round 1 or round 2 at plus 600-ish. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Throw a couple of bucks down there. And then Modestas Bukowskis at decision at plus 300. Honestly, I like them all. I think the top 4 plays are all multi-unit plays. The bottom 3 plays are all partial unit plays. And Kutalaba can go sit his ass on the bench.
No, dude, plus 425. These are, I mean, honestly, these are some big plus numbers. I like all of them. I mean, obviously, every bet you make, like, you should like. That's not always the case for that matter. But Kutalaba by decision plus 425. Give me a quarter on that and not the official. Give me a quarter.
Tell you what, you want a quarter on that? I want a quarter on Gene Silva by sub.
Oh, like it's money down a rat hole with that one. That's
plus 550. Plus 550.
That's okay. Mine will win back yours, no problem.
All right, we'll tell you what. Hey, drink bet. Kutalaba sub, Gene Silva. Kutalaba decision, Gene Silva sub. Loser chugs. If they both hit, then we both chug because we're celebrating a big cash day. If neither hits, nothing. Otherwise, loser chugs.
That's an easy yes.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to see something cool, tune in next week. Whoever chugs here, it's going to be impressive. I was out with the guys I played basketball with on a Wednesday night like a month and a half ago. 2 of the guys are 24. So, I mean, they're young guys. I'm 30. They're like, oh, I can chug. And I just quietly said, okay. Tell you what, loser buys the round. If I don't win, I'll buy the next 2. To say I wiped the floor with them would be an insult to janitors everywhere. It was an embarrassment for my hometown because I'm not from here. It was just otherworldly. And I also, all that, I've never beat you. So if you want to see something cool, tune in next week on our YouTube. Watch Joe put one down real quick.
I'll do a celebratory one once I hit that one as well.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Well, we're here pounding lines and we're cashing tickets.